Hello and welcome to the first half of Theory and Method of Anthropology lecture. This is going to cover the Schultz and Lavenda Chapter 2, Culture and the Human Condition, and let's get started. So, what makes humanity different from other species on the planet? What is it that gives us this dominance, this ability to basically do what we want with the planet? Yeah. Why are we so dominant in all the other organisms, even with sharp teeth and those that are faster and stronger than us? We still, we put them in zoos and go and look at them and throw peanuts at them. Well, we can take a look at what the authors say. The authors say that the thing that makes us different is our capacity for open symbolic thought, which basically means language. Yeah, our capacity for language, which means that we can communicate, we can think symbolically as well, but also it's not just our minds, but our hands. Yeah, we have opposable thumbs, and we are capable of manipulating matter extremely powerfully or extremely delicately. We have an amazing variety of abilities because of these opposable thumbs. So this chapter talks about culture and the human condition, and it talks about culture being the system that we organize our lives by, and it's also the system that organizes our lives for us. We're born into a culture; we don't get to pick. Yeah, and once you're born into a culture, that indoctrination goes deep. Yeah, and we'll talk about what I mean by that in a little bit, but. So a culture includes not just language, but also things like our values, yeah, beliefs about what we like and what we dislike, beliefs about what is attractive, what is unattractive, what is important, what is not important, yeah. So all those beliefs basically are codified for us in our culture, and you get messages about what to value, not just through communication with friends and family, but through media and through social interaction and those sorts of things. Yeah. Culture also includes what we call norms, and norms are guidelines for behavior. So we have an understanding that certain contexts demand different behaviors. Yeah. Now, so for example, your behavior in a library is going to be very different from your behavior at a football game. Yeah? Not that everyone at a football game is yelling and screaming and drinking beer and that sort of thing. But in general, it's assumed that you can speak louder at a football game, you can interact, you can high five, hey, good play, or whatever, touchdown, yeah, that sort of thing. But the context of a library is very, very different. Yeah? Even if you just finished writing your dissertation, you can't high five your friend across the table and be like, woohoo! Yeah, everyone will look at you and say, shh, right? These guidelines that we have for our behavior are not just implicit, yeah? And what that means is, in a library, typically, we understand that we're supposed to keep our voices down because people are studying, people are reading, and that sort of thing. And there may be a sign that says, please be quiet, but there also may not. We learn that we're supposed to be quiet in a library. We're supposed to not stomp down the hall in a library. We're supposed to not drop books and make loud noises and such. But if we do, it's not the end of the world. People aren't going to die because someone tells us a joke in a library and we laugh too loud. Yeah. But if there's a guideline for behavior that is important, that makes a difference between life and death, or that we feel is part of what makes us who we are, then we will go beyond just implicit understanding to explicit. When we make a norm explicit, we make that a rule. When we make it a rule, the most important rules basically get turned into laws. Yeah. So there is a law about how fast you can drive on the road. We feel that is important. Yeah, to express or to hold people to this behavior. And if you violate this behavior, then we will punish you. Yeah. So of course there's a difference between speeding and murder. Yeah. There's a different level of punishment. There's a different level of social ostracism that occurs when someone says, yeah, I have a lead foot, versus, yeah, I tend to kill people. Yeah. So our laws, in part, tell us what's important and what's not, and what's a major transgression and what's a minor transgression. We also have artifacts. We have material products of our culture. Yeah, from from the stone tools of Neolithic ancestors to our current Tupperware and iPhones and PlayStations and all these other material goods. Yeah, whether it's a Coach bag or a laptop or whatever, it's a material product of culture, and this is something that is part of who we are and that influences us and that we influence as well. So we need to talk a little bit more about what culture is, yeah, and the text talks about culture as being learned. Culture is not something that gets transmitted genetically. Instead, our human brain is well suited to organize and store information. Matter of fact, it allows for transmission of huge amounts of information via language. Yeah. So culture is learned both explicitly and implicitly. We learn explicitly, for example, we send our kids to school, or we take a class, or someone comes over. We buy a computer or something, and someone comes over and says, you press this button to make it do that, and this button to make it do that. That's explicit learning. That's explicit education, where it's very clear I'm here to develop this knowledge. Yeah? But we also learn implicitly. And what that means is we learn without it being stated, you are learning this now. Yeah? Without our effort to learn. Yeah? So we learn also not just by going to school or asking someone, teach me how to tie my shoes, but also by watching what other people do. We watch the behavior and interaction of others, not only in person, not only do we sit at the cafeteria and watch what the cool kids are doing or the nerd kids or whatever, but in media, in television, in movies, and so on and so forth, yeah? They give us a message about what's right and what's wrong and about what's worthy and what's worthless, yeah? About, well, he's a good kid, or he's a jock, and he seems, everyone seems to like him, so maybe I should wear the clothes that he's wearing because maybe they like him because of the clothes that he's wearing, and so on and so forth, right? So we're bombarded by messages coming from our culture, coming from our close friends and from people we don't even know, coming from individuals, coming from groups, coming from newspapers, magazines, TV, all that kind of stuff that tells us what is good and bad, what is worth working for and what is not, and what to expect. Yeah. So, for example, before you even take a drink of alcohol in our culture, you're already indoctrinated into what alcohol is and what it does via the media and social interaction. Yeah. We have these things in psychology that we call expectations. It's a mindset. It's a belief about what's going to happen. Yeah. So, for example, if you own a car or a vehicle, and it's a school day and you have to go to school, you have an expectation that when you go to your vehicle and you place the key into the key place in your vehicle and you turn it, that your vehicle's going to start, right? And you have that expectation based on what you know about the vehicle, based on the fact that it started before, based on it hasn't been hit by a meteor, or you haven't run out of gas right as you were pulling up to your house or whatever. So you assume it's going to start, right? Well, the same thing goes for other things that we do. We learn about alcohol as children through media and through social interaction. As children, we're at parties and we see adults drink and we see what adults do and we see how adults behave, right? And so we see, adults drink and maybe we might see them laughing and playing music and very happy and such. And we get this sense, all those folks who are laughing and being happy and such, they all have the Budweiser can next to them. Yeah, but I'm not allowed to access this material, this Budweiser, because I'm only 10 or 12 or 15 or whatever. But it's a message. Aha, there's an association between the material and the behavior, right? Same thing goes with TV. When you're a little kid watching TV or whatever, and then, an ad comes on with Spuds MacKenzie, and hey, he's so cool. Don't we all want to be like Spuds MacKenzie? He's riding he's a dog riding a skateboard or whatever, right? That's not, Spuds MacKenzie isn't meant to appeal to adults. Yeah? This is meant to indoctrinate our children into alcohol use. Pure and simple. Yeah? It's to get kids to see alcohol in a positive way. Alcohol's for fun times. Alcohol's for social times. Alcohol's for being with your friends, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So same thing goes. I mean, we've got ads. Weekends were made for Michelob. Yeah. Once all the hard work's over, it's Miller time. Yeah. There was an ad for a while, probably a decade or two ago, where guys were sitting around bored out of their minds, on a camping trip or one thing or another. Then one of them would pop open a beer, and all of a sudden these beautiful blonde women in bikinis would appear, and they're all dancing around. And it was the Swedish bikini beer team. I think it was Old Milwaukee beer or something like that. And it was completely nonsensical, but the idea is, the message that it's sending is, for a good time, open an alcoholic beverage, right? So we're learning all this information. We're getting all this information, whether we want it or not, whether we're trying to learn it or not. And that's one of the aspects of our culture is it surrounds us and it penetrates us, whether we want it to or not. It's like the Force, yeah, in Star Wars. Whether you want it to or not, it's there at all times. One of the reasons that culture is there all the time is because we share it. Yeah, it's around us all the time because it's part of who we are, and it's part of what makes us feel good when we see a similarity of understanding and meaning between ourselves and another organism, another person. Then we feel like that this is right. Yeah, we both believe that the Patriots should win the Super Bowl, and the whatever, the Bears should burn in hell or whatever. Yeah. So culture is something that we share. We learn about our culture from others, and we also are able to use the successes of others for ourselves. Right? Not only does it remain static, but these successes build over time. Yeah. So what that means is, I could not construct a basic telegraph or telephone. Yeah, I don't know what a telegraph is. I don't know what a telephone is. I understand it gets electricity, and it transforms sound waves into electrical signals, and then those signals get sent out, and so on and so forth. But I could not construct a telephone if my life depended on it. But I don't have to. Somebody else was extremely smart and was able to construct this device. Once they're able to construct this device and it works, they can share it with others. And then I don't need to know how to build it. I can just say, well, since you made that one, could you make another one for me? Right? And and that continues on. Now we're using this machine to communicate that none of us know how to build ourselves. So thankfully, we don't need to know how to build our own computer. We can buy a computer at Best Buy. We can use that computer, and we learn how to use the different programs on it and that sort of thing. We don't need to be as smart as the person who invented the telephone or who developed the computer, or the people rather. Yeah, because with culture, we can share our knowledge and we can add to it over time. Yeah, but because culture is learned, and because culture is shared, and because culture changes, sometimes culture loses information. Yeah, rather than maintaining it and building it. As things change, and we may not use that information, we may no longer be able to use it when the time comes. So, for example, the ability of Native Hawaiians to navigate via the stars was one of the key aspects of their ability to find these islands, for crying out loud, right? So to navigate between great, vast stretches of ocean using nothing but our minds and our understanding of the star field is an amazing success and achievement. Yeah, but if we don't use it, and now that we're on these Hawaiian Islands, we don't need to use the stars because we just point our canoe, and 20 hours later, we're no longer on Oahu, but now we're on Kauai or whatever. Yeah, so we can lose that information. Yeah, and it wasn't until folks started to say, hey, wait a minute, the some of the things that make our culture what it is are no longer there. Yeah. So, we've got now the Hokulea and the folks who are training now to understand this system of navigating via the stars. We almost lost Hawaiian language as well because, of course, forced acculturation. These two cultures come together. The Western white folks come along and try and basically, we forbid the use of Hawaiian language in schools, forbid the traditional dress and such, and aspects of the culture can die. Yeah, so it's great to see that Hawaiian culture is reinvigorated and is growing rather than dying. Culture is adaptive, and what that means basically is that culture allows us to survive, and to survive longer, and to survive better than if we didn't have culture. If you look at an infant, at a newborn child, yeah, infants have only a couple of very rudimentary instinctive responses. One of those is suckling. So if you brush your finger on the cheek of a newborn child, they'll turn towards that finger, right? And basically to get milk because they think it's a breast. So these kids though, even those innate tendencies tend to sort of die out. Everything that we become has to be learned. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we've got our biology, but our period of development from age from 9 months when we're born to our first, let's say, 10 years is a staggering period of information acquisition. Yeah, so we do this basically through our culture. Culture tells us, as we're growing up, we're learning. How do you get food? Mommy and daddy make food. Mommy makes breakfast for me, or whatever, that sort of thing, blah, blah, blah. Then at some point we get to a point where mommy says, I'm not going to make your breakfast for you, here's how you cook a Pop-Tart or cook an egg or whatever. You learn how to do it from your parents and so on and so forth, or you learn from other folks, and you become able to do it yourself. Yeah. So it's not just for our individual, for our children and such, but also in a large part, right? So, for example, here in America, let's just stick with America. How do we get food? How do you get, let's say, a pork chop? Yeah, if you want to eat pork chops for dinner tonight. Well, I don't know about you, but I go down to Foodland or Safeway or KTA store or whatever, and I pick myself up a package of pork chops. I don't have to look a pig in the eye and kill it. I don't have to know, that, the first thing you have to do is hang the pig so all the blood will drain out and such, or the cow or whatever. I don't have to know how to kill and clean a pig or a cow or a chicken. We have this developed system of abundant food production and distribution. Yeah, it's of course possibly slightly toxic. Yeah, I mean just evolution doesn't mean that it's getting better and better. Yeah, I mean there could be issues with the things that we're putting these meats in. The plastic and the styrofoam and so on and so forth. We're seeing cancer rates increase, and that may be due to the increase of use of unnatural products with our food and that sort of thing. Who knows, right? So culture has provided us with sources of food that are abundant and that are that are priced right. I mean, even if even if you're really broke, you can still get a double cheeseburger for $1 at McDonald's, right? So we've got this incredibly complex and robust system of food production and distribution that we depend upon. Not all of us, of course. There are hunters and those sorts of things, but most of us are probably like me, where if you take me out of my home and off of my island, and you stick me someplace where there's no one else, there's no other people, even if there are abundant plant and animal resources. I mean, we could say there's a herd of pigs and cows there, and there's coconut trees and that sort of thing. Could I survive? I don't. I'll be honest with you. I don't think I probably could. I think it might be too much work. Yeah, I mean to try and survive each day means you've got to get enough nutrition. You've got to get water. You've got to get hydration, and you've got to figure out what can I eat that's going to keep me alive versus what if I eat this berry and it kills me, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So I don't know about you, but culture is a key aspect of my survival. Culture is also symbolic, and what that means basically is that is that culture is a system of meanings and understandings, right? Well, those meanings are arbitrary. Yeah. How do we know that? Because we don't have one human culture. We have all these different kinds of culture in all these different places. Yeah. Culture is based on our ability to comprehend and to utilize abstract symbols. Yeah. We agree upon the meaning of these written symbols and our vocal sounds so that we can communicate. Yeah. So languages may use the same alphabet. For example, English, German, French, and Portuguese all use the same alphabet, but the terms for success or for failure or for bread or for water are very different from English to French, yeah, or from German to Portuguese or whatever you want to call it. So we use these symbols, and they're all basically things that we have to agree upon. Yeah, we once we agree upon that, we have a system of understanding. That's a system of meaning for the alphabet, for example, and for words, right? So this capacity is not just for basic symbolic representation. We have a capacity for complex symbolic representation. And what that means is that we can think about abstract things that we can't hold in our hands and measure and quantify and that sort of thing. So we can talk about the future or the past. Yeah, we can talk about what we want to do later today or in a year from now. Yeah, or who we will marry when we grow up, or where we will retire in 20 years. Yeah, we can talk about the past. We can talk about when I was a child, I played with marbles or whatever. And we can talk about even beyond our own personal past. When my father was a child, he played with paper airplanes or whatever it may be. We can also talk about abstract things such as internal and external phenomena, right? We can talk about things like emotion, yeah, that I don't, when trying to explain maybe when, you don't necessarily feel happy, you feel somewhat anxious, you feel, somewhat perturbed, and it's hard to get a finger on it, but to say, to be able to say, I don't feel pono right now. I don't feel balanced. I don't feel right. Yeah, that is complex, abstract communication. Yeah, so that complexity goes as far as you want to take it. Yeah, our ability to use symbols gives us the ability for complexity beyond any other organism on this planet. So we have the symbols, the alphabet symbols, A, B, C, D, all the way through Z. We combine those together, those letters in groups to form words. Yeah, and those words can have specific meanings. But when we combine them together, we can actually talk about the levels of meaning. Yeah. So here's a famous sort of saying: the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. Yeah. So that's our an old sort of bit of folk wisdom. Yeah. What does that mean? The grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. Well, we can look at it from look at the very base meaning of these words. It's saying that when you're looking at someone else's grass, when you're looking not at your grass, but across the fence at your neighbor's grass, that it always seems to be better. Yeah, it's greener, it's lusher, it's fuller. Yeah, well, what does that mean? What do we mean when we say the grass is always greener on the other side? Is that all we're talking about? Are we just talking about landscaping? No, we can apply that. Yeah, when someone says, "Geez, I wish I had their life. I wish I had their boyfriend or their girlfriend." Yeah, and someone says to us when we say that, "Well, the grass is always greener." Yeah, what we're saying, yeah, that level of interpretation can go beyond just grass is greener. But what it's saying is we look to others and we look at that with envy, yeah, and we assume that that our neighbor's grass is better. Yeah, we look at it, and because it's on the other side of the fence, we assume that it's better. Yeah, so we assume that our neighbor who has a different job, that their life is better. Yeah, or they're younger, or they're prettier, so their life must be better. Yeah. This phrase, "the grass is always greener," also tells us that we're wrong. Yeah, because what does that bring us to? Because it's pointing out the duality in human existence, that your neighbor is looking at your grass and saying, "Wow, I wish I had a lawn like that." Yeah, you're looking over your fence at their lawn and you're saying, "Man, this guy has it all together," or "This woman has it all figured out." Yeah, I wish I could do things the way that they do it. They must have things down pat. But they're doing the same thing. They're looking at you and they're saying, "Wow, I wish I had that car. Oh man, that couple seems to be so much in love." Yeah, whatever it may be. Yeah. So it's not just that basic, obvious meaning. We can go far, far deeper. Yeah. Give you another example. A bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. What does that mean? Yeah. Well, the obvious, most basic, meaning there is that if you're holding a bird in your hand, it's better than if you can see two birds in the bush and you don't have a bird in your hand. What are we coming from there? Well, typically we're talking about hunting. Yeah. That it's better to have killed one bird and at least you've got something on the plate, yeah, to offer, than knowing that there are two birds in the bush. You could have 10 birds in the bush and still not be able to kill one of them and bring it home. Yeah. So it's basically saying better to have one than be able to look at several and not have any. Yeah. But now we can go beyond that. It's not just talking about birds. Yeah. It's talking about just about anything that you value. Yeah. So for example, a car in your driveway is better than two in the sales lot. Yeah. And what does that mean? You may have a car that's rusty, that has tires that don't match or one thing or another, but it's better to have a car, even if it's not the best car, than not. Yeah, there may be two cars in the bush that you don't own, yeah, or at the sales lot or whatever. So you better value that car that you have, even though you got to work on it and keep it running and that sort of thing, rather than say, "Well, I'd rather have a Mercedes," because the car that you have is the one that's going to get you to work and back. Yeah, thinking about having that Mercedes or that Lexus or two cars or whatever is not worthwhile. Yeah. So let's take a look at some of these, some examples of the symbolism in culture. Yeah. So here we have the Governator. This is Arnold Schwarzenegger here, And he's given us a physical symbol that in Western culture in America has a very specific meaning. Yeah? Thumbs up, what does that mean to you? To me, thumbs up means it's all good. It means things are positive. It means I'm happy and I'm doing well. Yeah? Now you take that exact same gesture and you use it in another culture with different meanings, like say Turkish culture. Yeah? If someone asks you, how's your day? And you give them a thumbs up in Turkey, you're basically telling them, put my thumb in a very dark, tight place in your body. Yeah? It's a curse. Yeah? You're saying up yours, buddy. Yeah? Or lady. So, why does it mean one thing with us and another thing in Turkey? Because it's just a thumb. Yeah? It's arbitrary. It's just a gesture. The meaning comes from us. We attribute meaning to it. We assign meaning to it. And so, this symbol can have different meanings. Here's another symbol. I couldn't find a picture of anyone standing on land doing this, so I had to go with the diver here. But they're making a circle with their thumb and forefinger, yeah, and they're showing you that circle. And here, in America, what that means is a variant on the thumbs up, right? It's sort of the A-OK, I'm all right, yeah. This is a good dive for me or whatever, yeah. But again, if you're in Turkey or if you're in Greece, let's say, and someone comes up and says, how was your flight? And you make this A-OK symbol, you're basically saying, this part of my body is how that flight was. Yeah. And this is, again, an objectionable part of the body. Yeah. This is even better. Here we've got two pictures of Winston Churchill. And he's making the same gesture, or you would think it's the same gesture, but it's not. Yeah. On the right-hand side, this right-hand picture, he's showing the palm out with two fingers raised. Yeah. And in America, basically, we see that as peace. Yeah. In the '60s, it was a very common gesture where folks were basically saying, "Hey, man, be cool. It's cool. I'm not here to be aggressive. Peace." Yeah. And the left-hand side picture, though, it's almost the exact same gesture. The basic difference is you'll notice his palm is facing him rather than facing outwards. Here in America, that doesn't mean anything. In America, it's still peace. Yeah. So when George Bush rode in a motorcade in his first term as president, he rode in a motorcade in London, and he gave that gesture with the palm inward and the peace sign basically to thousands of Londoners as he's driving down there. He's waving these two fingers up in the back of his hand. Well, in Britain, when you turn the palm towards yourself, you're basically telling the person up yours. Yeah, you might as well take away your index finger and leave just one finger, that middle finger, sticking up. Because in Britain, the two fingers with the back of the hand showing is another cursed gesture. It is basically the same as flipping someone the bird in America. Yeah. So if you don't know that, and you're a visiting dignitary, and you think you're telling everyone peace, basically, George Bush flipped off everyone standing there on the side of the road who were there to welcome him to their country. Yeah. And here, of course, we have Winston Churchill, the former Prime Minister of England. Basically, he was famously known for speaking his mind, and when he was unhappy or he wanted to tell folks how he felt, he'd give it to you. This is one of the most famous symbols in current culture today. Yeah. What we see here is a Nazi flag, and at the very center of it is the bent cross, what is called the swastika. Yeah. When you see this symbol, especially if you're from my generation or from my father's generation, there's almost a visceral emotional reaction. Yeah, this is a symbol for folks from the 40s and the 50s of evil and death, genocide, and insanity. Yeah, on a scale that we had never witnessed before. But that's not where the swastika comes from. The bent cross was a sign, a positive sign that we see in many different cultures that existed for centuries prior to the Nazis using it as their symbol. As you can see, it was, it's not just a Western sign. Bali, Aztec, China, Japan, Islam, they all had versions of the swastika. And, it had a meaning of continuity of nature, a meaning of the cycle of nature and those sorts of things. And hopefully we will get back to a point where people can see the symbol of the swastika and not automatically have an emotional response to it the way that we do because of its connection to Nazism and genocide in World War II. So all this is basically trying to help you understand that culture is symbolic. And what that means also is that culture is arbitrary. That culture develops, and it's a system of justification of agreeing about why we do what we do. Yeah, but it's not based on any eternal meaning, right? So, for example, we agree on the meaning of not just signs and symbols, but also on the meaning of behaviors and the meaning of ceremonies as well. So we agree here in the West that that a funeral is a ceremony of sadness, yeah, and that we don a clothing that reflects our internal emotions, and that's why we wear black, yeah, to symbolize how sad we are at the loss of our community member, yeah. We have ceremonies like weddings that are brimming with symbols, yeah, that are brimming with various behaviors and meanings and that sort of thing. For example, we exchange rings in a wedding. Why do we do that? What is the symbolism of the ring? Why does the woman give the man a ring to wear and the man give the woman a ring to wear? Yeah. Why do we throw rice? It used to be wheat. We used to throw wheat when the married couple would leave the church. Yeah. And now we throw rice. Well, we do that because we're basically trying to bid them or give them wishes for fertility. Yeah. So we used to throw wheat because it was a symbol of fertility, and it changed to rice over time. The rings symbolize many things, right? They symbolize the endlessness of love, yeah, and they symbolize that there are no longer two individuals, but one complete couple, one whole, yeah, those sorts of things. We have birthday ceremonies where we agree on what the candles symbolize, yeah. That you put the number of candles on the cake that illustrate the individual's years on the planet. And then we have the graduation ceremony, which all of you will be able to appreciate. Yeah. At graduation, you're told you put on your cap and gown and you hang your tassel on the right hand side of your cap. Yeah. And you're not allowed to move that tassel from the right side of your cap to the left side of the cap until the graduation ceremony, until they say you may now move your tassel, right? The reason for that basically is what they're doing is they're moving from uneducated, from student to master. Yeah, you're moving that tassel to say I'm no longer a student. I am now, a member of this community. I am an educated individual now. Yeah, it symbolizes the completion of your academic study. And so that'll do it for this lecture. Your next lecture, the second half of Anthropology Part 1, is next. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me or give me a call. Otherwise, a hui ho.